everybody, and welcome back to the Hilltop Pillbox here in Abbotsford, British Columbia, Canada. Today we're doing a game of Axis and Allies Europe, and it's a great game. It's a great game. I was going to say little game. Sure didn't seem little when it came out, but compared to some of the more sweeping games these days, it seems a little smaller in scope. It is just one theater of war, of course, really. You could argue too, because there's also the Battle of the Atlantic, and there's a little bit in Africa, but that usually doesn't last too long. But this really is the Eastern Front game, and it wouldn't be right to play this game and not have Enemy at the Gates playing at the same time. So we're playing that, and who knows if Stalingrad will be taken. It typically is in this game, but my games are about 50-50, wins and losses for the Germans. A couple of neat things about this game. The convoys are really simple. If there's a German sub or surface vessel in any of the convoys, when the British go to collect, they can't get those, so they got to use destroyers to get them out. Destroyers cost 12, but they punch a little harder, 3 and 3. And the submarines, they're 8, so they're a little expensive for the Germans. They only make $40, and that number doesn't really go up too much. They might get up to 45, 46 at some point, but they're rarely going to be up over 50 until they can get through all of the oil territories. Now, the oil territories are a bit of a different beast. As you take over these territories, you can see that there's 8 IPC value worth of territories. And then as we come over here to the national production chart, there's this little chart here on this side that has 8 numbers on it. And as the Germans take control of these, you show how many are there. And then at the end of the German turn, the Allies have to give that much money. So you can have anybody pay it. Anybody can pay it from the Allies, but the Germans will get that money. The Allies do not collect this money during the game, so even if the Germans never took it, it's not as though the Allies are getting money, but they aren't giving it up either. That's pretty much it. Tanks only cost 5, but they attack 3, defend at 2. And I think that's pretty much it for kind of the weird stuff. Battleships are still 24. They got the old numbers here. And transports are 8, subs are 8, I think I mentioned. But beyond that, it's pretty much status quo. And the idea is to get to Moscow as soon as you can to win the game. If it turns into a slugfest, the Allies will win. Basically, the longer the game goes, the better chance the Allies have of winning. So, also at the beginning, the Axis, the Germans, get $12 they can spend on anything. I've decided to go with some meat shields here to protect and hopefully have the northern flank have a little bit more pop and draw some more Soviet reinforcements north, because typically the Soviets will just clog up the middle here, and the Germans don't have enough strength to push through for quite a while. So we're going to do that, but then the Allies get 12, and they can put them wherever they want, and they'll likely spend it on 4 men as well. When I say they, I mean me. Yes, solo game. All right, here we go. Round 1 coming up. Round 2 is about to begin, and a little bit of weird stuff that went on here. Of course, we put our northern flank here in through the Russian front, and with the extra 4 divisions, it was able to take that quite handily. And of course, the Baltic states falls. But East Poland didn't get attacked, neither did Bessarabia or Ukraine. And what happens then is that the Romania is falling, and that's unfortunate because it's just more territory the Soviets have taken that the Germans are going to have to take back. And every turn that they are kept out of the Soviet Union is a bit of a victory. But you can see just the swath of infantry here. Not much of an offensive threat, of course, but defensively can really cause some grief. Down here, the Germans are just tooling up for a push. They've captured Tobruk and are now heading towards El Alamein. And the Russians have even decided to send a single battalion of men and a tank division down here to try to help out the beleaguered Brits. The Germans built a couple of things here. Most of it went up here. Obviously, a stack of tanks. Got to get those going. With the balance of money being spent in men. And I think one artillery piece. The Battle of the Atlantic was an absolute disaster for the Germans. They failed to kill these 2 transports, which used to be in the Celtic Sea. They came after that, had a destroyer, and they brought in 3 subs, lost all 3 subs, and didn't kill any transports. So they're going to have to likely try to kill these transports, otherwise that'll be 4 transports the British have, and that'll probably be curtains for the German war effort on the Eastern Front, because they'll have to send so much stuff to the west that Russia will be able to hold. The British flew a couple of fighters over here, and those can turn into Soviet fighters at the end of this Soviet turn here on turn 2, should Russia wish to do that, and believe me, they wish to do that. Now, that assumes that they are still alive. The Germans might try to take a poke here. That would be an interesting battle. So we're going to give it a whirl. They've got 6 divisions up north, another 6 down south, and some tanks and whatnot. But the Russians definitely have the ability to take it right back. So yeah, we'll see what the Germans are willing to do. But so far, it's really looking like an Allied cakewalk. Not going too well. Round 2 might be different, though. We'll see. Round 2 was kind of a good news, bad news, and we'll go over both. So here the Germans were able to take Leningrad and took it quite convincingly. Had quite a bit of stuff left, even... Well, I think they had about 6 infantry left. And the Russians, though, just too many things to haul in. And so it's pretty light here. The Soviets are pretty light, but they definitely have Leningrad well in hand. Now in the south, a bit of a different story. The Germans definitely have numbers. We'll roll into Ukraine and maybe be able to move up north that way. And again, substantial reinforcements coming for the Germans. In the north, the British have landed a large contingent here. They now have 4 transports accompanied by a couple of destroyers, but I think Germany's going to have to take a poke at them this turn. I don't think they can let that happen any longer. What else is going on here? Well, in the south, the Germans were able to take Egypt, but at some cost. They only have 2 tanks left, and all they can bring now is a bombard, a man, and a fighter, and the 2 tanks. So not really a convincing win. If they did win with that much, that's bad news for the Allies. On the western side of Africa, Operation Torch has expanded, and the Americans are headed towards Kasserine Pass, which I'm sure will go swimmingly. And they have a little bit of a shuttle going already. Got a couple of transports and a couple destroyers to help out. Going to go back and forth and start landing more and more things in Africa. No British bomber left. Yep, took a shot here at the German infrastructure and was shot down. Ouch. So the Americans have brought their bomber over to start doing their thing. I really don't see Germany being able to win this. I'm not a defeatist, but when the Atlantic in round 1 is wide open, and now the British and Americans can just build destroyers and transports with impunity, and there's no subs to check that, yeah, it's pretty much game over for the Wehrmacht. They have to try to get into Russia, right into Moscow ASAP, and there's lots of stuff coming. Soviets aren't making a lot of money, only made 17 last turn, but they'll make a little bit more now because the British were able to wrest control of the convoy from the lone German U-boat. All right, on to round 3. Not really sure how to proceed here. I think we're going to try to kill all this Russian stuff and then head for Stalingrad. And the Russians will likely come and try to bulk that up, but with some British pressure here, shouldn't be a problem to leave Leningrad a little light. Well, I've said it before and I'll say it again. What a difference a turn will make. So over here we see the British have been able to push the Wehrmacht out of Finland, and Vyborg, and nothing in the north. And the Americans have even landed a fighter in Leningrad. And Baltic states have fallen to the Soviets, as has Belarusia. Unfortunately, yeah, that's a big heaping, huge bunch of love and affection. Anyway, there you go. Whole bunch of tanks and infantry headed towards Moscow. Probably go to Belarus this turn with everything, because I don't think there's enough there to kill all of this stuff. Now, of course, they can build up for another round, and they'll fly in that fighter the following round if it's still alive. The British might be able to send in some support. They can get stuff all the way to the Russian territory, a couple of tanks. But time will tell. Time will tell. We got a lot of stuff that can move on Moscow right now. Down here in the Middle East, the very first roll did it. We had 2 bombards. We had 2 tanks, a man, and an airplane. Everything hit. 6 for 6, and there was only 5 units. But they hit back and got 2 hits, so 1 tank and a man were taken away. So just 1 tank now, but now it can roam. Over here, the Americans continue to push forward, but as impressive as this is, it's only a buck at a time, and it's not really slowing down the German war machine. I also thought I'd take a little bit of a risk and throw in a couple of subs, mainly because I didn't want these transports just kind of flying around the med. So, had to be a little bit more cautious. We have 3 destroyers now, though, and we'd use our bomber, but the bomber is no longer. Came over here to take out the German transport, which it did, but it was shot down by the German transport at the same time. That's probably why they took that out of later versions of this game, where the lone transport can't shoot down a bomber, because that's kind of ridiculous. But there you have it, folks. So the British and Americans have lost their only bombers so far. Another wave of Americans ready to come over, but I think there's only 2 rounds left for the Germans. Not much follow-up, though. It's kind of a one and done. So they're gonna head up there. Not sure if they're gonna have enough to take it. The Russians might have to do a spoiling attack, and hopefully their reinforcements will be enough to stop the Germans from getting into Moscow. But it's going to be close. Pretty scant resources here in Europe right now for the Germans, and with a couple of transports here, the Americans may actually do a landing in Vichy. So could happen. We'll let you know. Round 4 coming up. What's it going to look like? Round 5 is here, and we're just going to show you the battle for Moscow. There's other things that need to be done, but this is the battle for Moscow, and it's ready to go. So we're going to roll it out, and we'll let you know what happens. Okay, we're actually going to show you what happens here, because I like doing this. I like showing you in real time kind of what happens. So we're going to start. We got the anti-aircraft gun. We got 5 shots. 5 shots coming at him here, and we'll see. Okay, so that is a game changer right there. Holy cow. Well, Germany might not be doing so well here, but we still got to roll it out. That's a pretty impressive start, though, for the Russians. All right, so we've got 2 at 2. No hits. I should have counted this out. 5. That's 6. So we got 13 at 3 and 2 at 4. 13 at 3 and 2 at 4. So if they do well, they can get this all done in one shot. So we got 7. We're going to do 7 and 6 here. So here's 13 at 3. So we got 4. And then 4 plus another 3. So that's 7 hits. Well, this is for our survival, so that's got to go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. Well, they needed a few more hits than that, I think. That's just not too bad. And then both bombers missed. Okay, so living a charmed life here, the Soviets are. Here's their bomber defending. No go. We got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 at 2, so we'll roll 7 twice. Here we go. 5. 2 more, 7. Wow. 1, 2. Make sure that's 5. That is 5. All right. And then we've got 2 at 4. 2 more hits. Well, the odds are definitely in the favor of the Soviets now. Definitely in the favor of the Soviets. So, well, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tanks. Five hits. Could use those last round. So 5, and the bombers. At least they got hits this time. So that's 7. So that is all of this stuff. All right. So we're down to 7 at 2. Still getting good hits. 1, 2, 3. And we are now at the place where we're probably going to lose our bombers. And 2 fighters at 4. Oh! Wow, one good turn, eh? All right. Well, we'll start with the German bombers here. And that's it. And then the Soviets and American fighters shooting back. Oh! All right. So, all right, my camera was full right when I was placing stuff, but this is kind of what it looks like here after the German turn. Excuse me. So the bombers had to land someplace, and this seemed to be as safe a spot as any. And the British are going to be able to take a poke at the Soviets in Moscow, and all the Germans have to come back with is a man. They do have a tank that can be there in a couple of turns. Now, what I was debating, I could actually give this up because this tank was sitting in Iraq. I can actually zoom him up, and then the Allies only will owe $7 in oil. So that might be a thing to do. The wrap-up of last turn, I don't think I actually did a wrap-up, is the Germans came here, took Tunisia back. The Americans took it back. And the Americans landed here, landed 6 units here. So the Germans are a little caught betwixt and between. The British tried a landing in Netherlands, Belgium with 2 units. And that didn't go so well. So they've loaded up with a bunch more. But they are now within range of a couple of subs. So it'll be interesting to see what next turn brings. But for right now, we don't even know if there's a next turn. So just to get this out of the way, because if Moscow doesn't get taken back right now, it's over. So we're just going to skip ahead. I guess for the Russians, this unit would probably move here. And that's it. Obviously, there's no build. And then we have the British attack. So we're going to have 2 British tanks going against 3 German tanks. And no green dice. So the blue are the British. So that's 1 each. So they'll both leave. Now we've got 2 German tanks versus 1 British. Holy bloodbath. All right. So this is what it looks like now. These guys are gone. Of course, the British would move those guys in. Germans are going to be moving these guys in next turn, obviously here. And they can build 1 unit in Moscow. So, yeah, it's tough to say. I'd probably do a spoiling attack with my bombers and the tank on that mess right there. Just to see if we can't kill a few things. But, yeah, it's hard to say. It's a little discombobulated, but I could build another tank here, build something here. I think this is a fight that the Germans are going to win. They're in a better position. They've got more stuff. Got a couple of tanks that can be there in 2 turns as well. And the Soviets aren't going to be building anything, right? Because they're not going to have it at the end of their turn. They'll have it at the end of Britain's turn, but they don't collect their money. So we're going to call this one a German victory. The Americans, this fleet here down here is not bad. It's got 3 destroyers, but the Germans have 2 subs, a battleship, which makes a big difference in this game. A destroyer and a fighter. And likely could build some more destroyers, some more subs, because now the German economy is just going to be simply placing things in Stalingrad. They'll take Leningrad. likely, and then just start placing things. Likely head up to Archangel at some point, and with the Soviets unable to get their act together, to be able to build, it's kind of a lost cause. I'd also start pumping out a bunch of subs here to go sink British transports as they try to help out the cause. I think that would be my main concern. So we're going to call this one an Axis victory. Like I say, it's about half and half, maybe a little bit more Allied. So I'm a little surprised at this, and it really looked bad for Germany. But they had a couple of really good rolls, and the Soviets had some really bad rolls, especially the battle for Belarusia. That really turned the game. And the Germans still had a monster tank stack and still some artillery to help them out. So, all right, well, thanks so much for watching, folks. Again, I do hope that you've been able to reflect on your freedoms and everything that you're able to do thanks to the sacrifice, the huge cost that others have paid in the past. Many of you have you are veterans, you have served, maybe you are serving right now, so thank you very much for that. It sounds hollow because it's just a thank you, but believe me, I mean it from my heart. I've had friends, I've had family who have served and died in the service, and I get it. I get it as much as a civilian can get it. So blessings on you. Thank you so much. And for all of you out there, hug your loved ones and go hug a veteran. And thanks for watching. May those dice be with you.